Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Chat with the Author. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I am here every Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time to talk about the subject or subjects plural of one of my 11 published books. So if you are watching this live or you are watching this on replay, I want to welcome you here. And if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe below and click on the like button. Sign up for those notifications because I'm addressing topics on self-empowerment. So self-actualization, self-realization, it's all about self-improvement in mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and that is what I talk about on this channel and in my published books. So today, I am talking about this book, Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. And we're going to dive deeply into the meaning of this book and why I wrote it, what it talks about, and also you can bring to the table any questions that you have for me. And I understand if you're watching this on replay, you can always post the questions in the comment section below, and I'll try to get to those if I see the question. So Heal Yourself, this book, I wrote and published it in 2020. And we all know what was going on in 2020. There was a lot going on in 2020. I believe, however, that I started writing this book before the big happenings of 2020. So I started writing this book probably around January. Must have been around January 2020. I did not publish it until I want to say June. I can't remember the exact publication date, but I started writing this book in January of 2020. We all know what was happening in 2020. So I want to ask you a couple of questions first, because this is going to get your mind flowing on the topics of this book. So the first question I have for you is, are you happy? Are you ecstatic? Are you blissful every single day of your life? That's the first question I have for you. The second question I have for you is, what or who or how or what are you living for? What are you living for? Why are you here? What do you think you are here for? Do you think you're here to have a job and have an education, have a family, have kids? Why do you really think that you showed up here in this lifetime? Why did you show up? And those are questions that we often ask ourselves. And it can become quite disturbing when we don't know the answers. It can become quite disturbing when we wake up one day, usually in our late 20s, early 30s, and sometimes even 40 when we hit the big 40. We wake up and we have the career, the job, the kids, the education, the spouse, perhaps. We have the house, we have the car, we have a wardrobe full of clothes, we've got the neighbors and the barbecues and the football games, but something doesn't feel right. Something feels off. Something feels like empty on the inside. And when that happens, a lot of us go, I need to go see my doctor. I need some prescription for like anti-anxiety or antidepressants because something's not working here. And then we think like, oh, I haven't been to church in a while. I haven't been to synagogue or to the mosque in a while. I haven't been to my holy place in a while. So maybe I just need to go back there because maybe that will fill this void that I'm feeling. And so we might go to the doctor to get a prescription pill. We might go back to a church or a place of worship. But still, there's this nagging feeling like I have everything this world is providing for me, even if it is a struggle for some people to struggle, right? Sometimes they don't have enough money. Sometimes they're not able to buy a home, but they still have a living space usually. And then there's this tugging feeling of, why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? Why do I feel like even though I have the earthly things, I just feel this void on the inside of me? And some people might call that a spiritual awakening. And it usually is when we reach the point at which we're asking ourselves, what am I doing? Why am I here? I'm happy in my marriage. I'm happy with my family, but I'm just not happy in general. I'm just not happy. And so let's go back. Those are the questions for you, by the way. Sorry to start on such a downer, but this is just to get you thinking of all of these things that brought you to this channel where we explore self empowerment. Because there is a reason why you're here, whether you're here live or whether you're here on replay. And if you are here live, please put something in the chat box. Say hello, because I would love to shout out to you and say hello. So, this book is a combination of yoga and meditation philosophies. So, as most of you know, I've been a yoga teacher since 2008. I've been practicing yoga since 1989. I almost said 99, but it's not 1999, it's 1989. And I've been practicing meditation, mantra based primordial sound meditation since 2007. I've been teaching it since 2009. So the principles in this book are very yogic in nature, they're very meditation based, yogic based, but they help you to entertain those questions that I asked and how to find the solutions to that. How to find the solutions to the emptiness inside that you might be feeling when you come to the point at which you are spiritually awakening, or you don't even know you're spiritually awakening. Because usually when it comes to the point at which you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't know what's wrong with me. Why am I so unhappy? Why do I not feel fulfilled? Why do I feel that hole inside? That is your soul speaking to you. That is your soul telling you, hey, come back. There's some work we need to do to get you integrated. And so that's why this book is called The Integration of the Mind, Body, Soul, and Spirit, because there is more than one layer of you. There's more than one aspect of you. So most of the time, when we think about ourselves, we think about a couple of things. We think about our bodies because we can see them, right? We think about our physical bodies that we can see and feel. And we think about our minds and personalities, right? We think about our minds because we think thoughts, and we think about our personalities because that's how we show ourselves to the world, right? That's how we make friends and lovers. That's how we maintain relationships with others, is through our personalities. And we are so much more than that. According to yoga philosophy, there are many layers to who and what we are. And that if we just focus on one layer, or if we focus on two layers, that we're missing a bigger picture. And let's talk about when you conceive of yourself as being a physical body, maybe some thoughts, the mind, and a personality, but nothing else, you have a difficult time getting to know yourself. That's why people are typically so fascinated with things like personality tests, right? Because they're so disconnected from themselves that they want to learn more about themselves. And so they take personality tests or they get astrology readings and they kind of learn a little bit more. Who am I? Right? They learn a little and they get so excited usually when you have these types of outcomes, the personality types, for example. Then someone can say, I am that. And sometimes people are so disconnected from themselves, who they are holistically, that they identify themselves with a condition or a disease. Because if they can identify themselves with a condition or disease, then it makes them feel somehow more whole. It makes them feel like they understand themselves better. And so someone might say, I have anxiety disorder, or I have cancer. Like, I'm a cancer survivor. That's a big one. So people have their identities linked to some kind of disease or disorder, And because they can put a label on it, a name on it, it makes them feel more whole. So then when they go out in public, not only can they say, I'm a teacher, I'm a wife, but I'm also a cancer survivor, right? So they try to piece together all these pieces to really identify who they are living on this planet. But from a yogic perspective, it is so much better. It's so much better because when you realize who you are from a spiritual perspective, from your higher spiritual self, and that you are part of a bigger whole, and that you truly are already whole. Okay, let me repeat that because I think you didn't get that. You are already whole. You do not need a diagnosis to tell you a piece of you. You don't need other people to validate your personality to tell you that you're whole. You don't even need to have your body be 100% perfect to be whole. You are already whole as you are because integrated, if you agree with the integration of yourself on all levels, if you shift the mindset to integrate yourself on all levels, you know that you're already whole. You're not broken, and you don't need others' validation or approval to prove that you are whole because you are already whole. So, yoga and meditation teach you that concept from a philosophical level. I want to talk a little bit about the basis for suffering because so many people on planet Earth suffer when suffering is optional. You might not think it is, but suffering is 100% optional. And the reason suffering is optional is because suffering is based on you and you. It's based on you and no one else. Okay. I really would love it if there was one takeaway from this 30-minute chat with the author that we do every week. But for this week, I would love it if the takeaway was suffering is optional. You do not have to suffer. I know some people, we've been socially conditioned to believe that we must suffer in some way, shape, or form, or that we do suffer in some way, shape, or form. But truly, suffering comes from the self. Truly, it comes from your mind and the belief systems that you've been conditioned to hold. So typically, we suffer because we cannot accept present conditions as they are. Now, accepting present conditions as they are doesn't mean that you don't want to change the conditions, but accepting the present conditions as they are is a means to being at ease versus suffering. So when you don't accept the present conditions as they are, you are fighting against the present conditions. And so either you want them to change and you're so uncomfortable in present conditions that you feel like there's no other way for you to feel better or to feel less suffering, that you constantly fight against the present conditions. Or you are in a space where there are present conditions, but you have a refusal or a resistance to change the present conditions that you can change, right? There are some things that are a little bit beyond our control. And if something is beyond our control, obviously we can change the way we process it. We can change the way we think about it. But suffering honestly comes from the self. And the reason I say this is because it's true. And the second reason I say this is because it is outlined everywhere in all the sacred texts, the sacred yogic texts, the Vedic texts. We suffer because of our own doing. Now, you might be sitting there saying, okay, that's not true because you don't know the spouse I live with. You don't know the mother I live with. You don't know how my kids are acting. And while that's true that I don't know those people in your life or I don't know your personal circumstances, what is true is that your state of being, your state of wholeness, the state that you came into this earth with, that state of integration of mind, body, mind, really, let's go body, mind, soul, and spirit, that condition in which you arrived here on earth, that sense of wholeness, and connection to the earth and the earth plane, you came here with that. And since you came here with that, you came here with this sense of already being integrated. And if you are already integrated, then no one can pull you away from your integration without your permission. No one. So even if you have the worst marital situation and your spouse is bothering you day in and day out, and you feel pulled in all these directions because you cannot cope, you feel out of control, you still have control over yourself, what you say yes to, what you say no to, and you have total control over your own emotions. Even if your kids are misbehaving, and believe me, I have 3 kids. I know that there were many times that all 3 of them might be misbehaving for various reasons. Either they were hungry, they were tired, they had a bad day at school. And I felt pulled in 3 different directions, actually 4, because my inner self was also demanding of me, which I ignored most often. But all 3 of those kids at various times, they would be pulling me in 3 different directions and myself in a 4th, which always took a back seat. And instead of remaining centered and calm and joyful in addressing the issues, I could have and probably did it sometimes, allow myself to feel pulled and out of control because of external circumstances. And the other reason why you have total control over whether or not you're having a bad day, a good day, feeling suffering and pain and anxiety and all the negative feelings that you could possibly feel on the planet has to do with external locus of control versus internal locus of control. So, what does that mean? In yogic terms, we say that is self-referral versus object referral. What does that even mean? It means that typically we are always looking to the outside for cues of our well-being. Always. We're trained to do that from the time we're born. We're always looking to outside cues to see if we are doing okay. So we're doing emotional check-ins with others to see if we're feeling okay. We're doing check-ins with others to see if we are accepted or appreciated or included or loved or connected. We're checking in with our external world as far as maybe our work is concerned to see if we're validated, if we're doing a good job. We're checking in with our societal world, for example, on social media, to see if we fit into a mold or a crowd, or if we fit in with the group that we want to fit in with. And so we're constantly seeking outside validation all the time. And even for those of you that are saying, I never seek outside validation, if you're in any type of relationship of any kind, rest assured you are seeking outside validation, because we all do it, because we are conditioned to do it. It's just, what level are you at when it comes to external locus of control? Do you feel like you really want everybody to like you, and you have like the people pleasing aspects of yourself where you don't want to disappoint people? You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to disappoint them. You don't want others to think badly of you. You don't want others to think that you might be a bad person somehow, that you might not be generous or kind or loving at all moments in time, because none of us are that at all moments of time. But when we let go of our internal locus of control, right? When we let that go and we're really concerned with other people seeing us as being a loving, giving, amazing person, and that you can't get a personal bad review ever, ever, never, 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 we give away our control and we feel disintegrated inside, the lack of integration. We feel very fragmented, as I mentioned in my book. We feel these like we've given away parts of ourselves to all these relationships and people and situations and circumstances because God forbid anybody should ever think anything bad of us because we're good people after all. And that's when we start to feel that emptiness on the inside because we quickly become very disconnected from ourselves. But when we turn back inward through the practices of meditation, as an example, and when we get to the space in ourselves where we are okay with being where we are at in our authenticity all the time, and we're not seeking outside approval, and we are not seeking outside pats on the back, but we're staying authentic and true to ourselves, then we can feel empowered in every moment and it reduces our suffering. Because when we try to control the outside, because the control on the outside, the external locus of control has two facets. It's being controlled by others, or we let ourselves be controlled by others in situations, circumstances, and events, but we also try to control them through our responses, right? So that control has two sides to it. And both of them are ugly, right? When we let others control us and when we try to control because we want others to see us in a certain light. And so we feel fragmented as a result of that. And it's not until we get back to the internal focal point, feeling the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit within us, that we can live more authentically and holistically. I'm going to give you guys an example. So the example that I'm going to give you it's very close to home. I have one of my adult children who, since 2020, and I mention that because this book was written in 2020. Since 2020, this particular child, my eldest, has been very worried about the certain virus that all of us know about. And now, what year are we in? We are in the year 2024, toward the end of the year 2024. And for the first 3.5 years, yes, 3.5 years, if not almost to the 4.5 mark, this particular child, who I only see once a year, sometimes twice a year, but I only see them once a year. This particular child has tried to micromanage a certain behavior from family members. So I'll say it just outright. So even into 2024, this child of mine has said, well, if you come and see me, I'm going to be masked and you better be masked. And some of you might, and this is not like a political statement. This is nothing. This is just saying how we manage our own behaviors in relation to others. And so for a while, for the first few years, I wanted to see my kid, right? And I didn't want to fight that battle. And so even though I found it a little ridiculous 2.5 to 3 years into this, I would comply, but I would be angry. I would be angry with myself. I felt inauthentic to myself, and I felt like I was taking away my own power. But then again, I feared the loss of love and connection that I would have had with my child if I didn't comply. I felt like they might not want to see me and they might not want to be with me. And I would rather do this thing that I really don't want to do in order to see my child. And so fast forward to this year, again, another trip to see this child in question. And it wasn't even that child that mentioned the wearing the mask. It was the middle child that now mentioned wearing the mask on the plane and whatnot in 2024. Let me repeat that. This is just a couple of months ago. And I, again, had those feelings of despair and anger and feeling upset and controlled because, again, I don't want to be controlled into the situation, and I don't want my kid to say, I don't want to see you. And so I did something very different this time. I took back my control. And what I did was I didn't even respond to it. I basically responded to the child that texted me this information. I basically texted my child and just said, I love you so much. And that's all I responded. I went about my merry way and did what I wanted to do, anyways. And so I released that need to control the situation by complying to something that I didn't want to comply with. And I released control of the situation by not trying to control the others in this situation. And I'll tell you what, it felt so much better and it felt so much more authentic. And I didn't worry about it. And I was like, everyone just has to live their life and be who they're going to be, right? We can't control others, and we can only look back into ourselves and say, what am I comfortable with and what am I not comfortable with, being the most authentic person that I can be with myself. So I know there's this is not taken off just yet. So I know there aren't really any questions out there, but I just want to wrap it up with showing you the book one more time. And there is a soul exercise video, which I will try to post in the cards. So you'll probably see it go overhead. It's called the Inner Soul Exercise. So I posted that a few weeks ago. It's something that I teach in my meditation course, and I have it up free on YouTube. So it's called the Inner Soul Calling Exercise. And I will try to post a link here and below in the info box. If I happen to not be able to do it, then you can go ahead and check that out on my YouTube channel. And you can really answer those questions that I asked at the beginning of this live stream, where I said, like, why are you here? And what is your purpose? Why did you show up in this lifetime? Why did you decide to show up? And what do you wake up for each and every day? And of course, that can change from day to day to day to day to day. But if you cannot wake up and live your days feeling complete joy and bliss, then there's an issue there. And that is the issue that you really need to take a look at. It probably means that on some level, you are not integrated within yourself. There's some part of you that you are denying, whether it's your emotions, your physical body, your ego, your personality, your soul, your spirit, your connectedness to source, whatever it happens to be, there's usually a point of disconnection there. So getting reconnected requires silence, contemplation, meditation most easily, right? That's the easiest way to do it for the reconnection. Obviously, practicing things like yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong are other ways that you can really bring back in that mind, body, soul connection. The least favorite ways to do that: browsing the internet, browsing social media, watching TV. Those are the ways that you stay fragmented and disconnected. But meditation, silence, mantras, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, all of those practices are ways in which you can really bring it back together. Even running, right? Even something like running or a walking meditation, just listening to the sounds of nature. Fabulous way, getting connected with nature. And to close out, I will tell you that one of my favorite things in the world, and I was just like so joyful, and I do this every day. I love birds. I don't know why. I love birds. I love them. I don't have them as pets, but I love birds. I love seeing birds every single day. And when I'm driving to and from my gym, because that's really the only place I typically go to, or the library during the day, because I work from home, but I look for birds on the lampposts because they often like line up all the way across the lamppost. And that just brings me so much joy seeing all of those birds sitting there on the lamppost. So find that point of connection to nature, to source, to integration with self, because the environment is integration with self as well. That makes you feel so joyful each and every day. and finding that integration within yourself, because that is the point of suffering. And instead of suffering, you can opt to live joyful each and every day. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. Probably you're watching this on replay, but thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for subscribing below if you're enjoying this. Pick up a copy of my book, Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. And stay tuned for other videos on this channel, as well as more Chat with the Author live streams. Hopefully we'll get some questions soon. Take care. Bye.